Hi, this is David Villa.
And this is Mikey Okendo.
And this is another episode of Auto Dealer Live. You're going to love this one. Check it out. All right, so today we have two phenomenal car guys on. We have Phillip Franks, the general manager of Mike Terry Chevrolet in Refugio, and then we have Clifton Lowder, the general manager of Parkside Kia in Ohio. And gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. It's going to be a great episode, and I want to jump right into this. I know we have different markets represented, and I'm excited to kind of dive into the perspectives that you guys have. And so, Clifton, you guys are at Parkside in Knoxville, Tennessee. I said Ohio. Higher medium income. You guys are 119 roughly new, 35 used. That was last month. And of course, Phillip, I know you came out of a group. You were the COO of the group, and now you're GM of one of the stores, soon to be a dealer. And you're in Refugio, currently town of less than 5,000. You guys are 50 to 60 car store per month. And I want to talk a little bit about MSRP. And I want to start there because there's a lot of debates. And I'll go to you first, Phillip. And, you guys, MSRP, there's debates. Do I sell above MSRP? Do I sell below MSRP? Right there on the ground where you are, talk about that a little bit from your perspective, and also why this is such a hot topic. Why do you think that everybody's trying to figure out where I need to price my vehicles? And I appreciate you joining us, Phillip. Why don't you weigh in on that, and we'll get this thing started.
Okay. Well, good morning, everybody.
Morning.
I took this store. We bought this store in November, and when we got the store, it was doing less than 20 units a month. So first off, small town, rural town, kind of a destination store. I'm about 2.5 hours from Houston, about an hour and a half from Corpus Christi, Texas, and about 2.5 hours from San Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
So when we took the store, we came in with an easy philosophy, MSRP on everything, unless it's like a specialty unit. And because of that, we've already, turned the business. I know a lot of people don't think 55, 60 cars a month is huge numbers. But when you're coming into a store that does 20 a month, you're doubling the business, you're getting the market share, you're getting out in the community. And I just told my sales manager, I was like, let's just stick to sticker on everything. If you do sticker, you're not making the customers feel like you're gouging, then you're just like everybody else also. Mm-hmm. And you're not being shopped as much. I've made more deals just by, hey, we're at sticker, we're not putting addendums on the vehicles, but here's how we're going to do your trade as well. And of course, we make our money on the trades, because right. That helps your service department, that helps your sales department, and you can't really go out and buy used cars right now either. Mm-hmm. So stickers just been really a lot easier for us. We're selling an average of 28 to 30 new cars a month with an average inventory. Like as this morning, I have 16 new cars on the ground. Mm-hmm. And we're not selling out of the pipeline because you can't really are those. Of course, we're taking orders on them, taking deposits on them, but we don't count it as a sale until it's actually here and delivered.
Right. Well, let me ask you this too, because I know you came from, I know you had the experience with the group running multiple stores, and you have some stores that are part of your group there that you've been part of that are in bigger markets as well. But, and I know we can't go back, but, this in time and change what happened. But, last year, there was such a demand on vehicles with the shortage of inventory across the board. And I think this is where this debate first kind of came to light, because there were, dealers were able to make a lot of money, because of, And so but a lot of them, and I remember hearing some of our masterminds with some of our GMs and dealers talking last year here when we had about 60 or 80 of them in our office. They were, they had two different perspectives, but a lot of them were worried about, like, if I take advantage of this scenario right now, just because I can, what's that going to leave me when this thing shifts, which it has? Is it going to put me in a situation where I've got customers that are, that are ticked off, that are buried, that are going to come, is it going to come back to bite me? And so, I know that that's something that in retrospect, a lot of dealers maybe wish they would have done some things different. But is every market's different? So I mean, is it different with some of the other stores that you were a part of, that you were in charge of when you were running the whole group? I mean, is it different per market? Or is that something that you think is a pretty good move, regardless of the market that you're in?
When I was the COO for the company, we get involved as support for the other stores, but the general manager ultimately looks at his market and decides what is best for him. When the supplies were so low, I don't blame people for selling cars over MSRP. I mean, again, it goes back to supply and demand. But I think the philosophy walking in here like we did was average trade cycles 2 to 3 years for most customers. You sell them a car for $10,000 over, well, that trade cycle's gone. It's going to be more like 5 years. So
now, Clifton, what is your perspective on this? I know we're gonna shift gears to something else, but just before we do, you're in a different market, different perspective. Maybe what's your perspective on it, and also what did you guys do at your store?
So we did do markup. January through September of last year, we turned 100% of our inventory every month and finished the year at 96% turn. There was months that we would start out with 2 and 3 cars. So we did charge a markup, especially on high demand vehicles. Now, a Kia Rio that I'm going to get multiples of, a Soul, those things, obviously I'm never going to miss a deal, but on something rare that I may only get 1 or 2 of for the entire year, like Phillip said, it's economics, supply and demand. So we have 3 Kia stores here, all within a 20-mile radius, and Knoxville's a pretty big market, so we went with it. We did what we thought. We actually still have markup on some cars.
Yep.
We're very, I don't know the right word, but we're, relaxed on it, where some dealers are steadfast. It's,
Sure.
$49.95 over, no ifs, ands, buts about it. I'm never going to miss a car deal. If I've got a customer, especially, and that's where you start looking at the value of the customer. They bought 4 or 5 cars from us. They do all of their service with us. Obviously, I'm going to do everything I can to put them in a car.
Right.
So it requires a lot more management on a daily basis than just, it's the whole market right now is completely fluid. What I say today may be completely different tomorrow. So it takes a little bit of getting used to. My sales managers, my finance managers, they I hate to say we're on the fly, but it almost really is, because so much is changing every day.
It's funny, we talked about adaptability in a previous show, and I'm hearing it again because, like you said, it was different when you weren't sure, because that was the other thing during that time period. You weren't sure when you were going to get your next shipment of vehicles. You weren't sure if you were going to run into delays or issues with the factories. A little bit different now because we have the inventory is up quite a bit. But back then, that's another reason why I'm sure you had your part of your pricing strategy was like, hey, I don't know if I can afford to not do a little bit more on this one because I don't know when I'm going to get my next shipment. So that factors in. And now, of course, the mindset's a little different. Like you said, you roll with the market. So that's interesting how that's changed.
So, so even this year, it's been the same thing. We've been, a 95 to 100% turn every month. Now we just came off of our best new car month that the store's ever had last month.
Wow.
And was number 1 in the state of Tennessee. Which is just, we have a great team here. But this month we've gotten more cars than I've seen in the past 3 years. We've got cars that are still sitting on the ground, but we're still pre-ordering, pre-selling cars, selling cars out of the pipeline. So who knows? Is this an anomaly with Kia? Is this going to be, a 1-2 month thing, and then we're back to very tight inventories again? There's no telling. So again, it's adaptability. It's completely fluid day in and day out.
Yeah, and it seems like, yeah, and it kind of brings me to my next point. I'll go to you first, Cliff, and then Phillip, I want you to weigh in on this again. Different markets, but you guys are both car guys. You're both extremely successful. One of the reasons we want to get both of you on is because, Cliff, obviously number one in the state last month. That's a big deal. And then Phillip, here's the thing: the market's the market, but taking a store from 20 to now doing 60. I mean, you're growing in a 6-month period, and that's going to continue to trend. But so here's I think that what it's done is it's opened up. What I hear is it opened up new opportunities to do more than one thing. I mean, you said you're still pre-ordering, and at the same time you have more inventory on the ground. There's some that are sitting, and so you're having to get aggressive. So it's not a one size deal. I think before COVID there was one way, then there was another way. Now it's kind of all the ways, and I think it's taught us to be adaptable, like you said, Cliff. But I want to ask you this: there's a lot of people out there, some bigger names, and I see this on LinkedIn a lot. I hear it. With the ear to the ground, where they're saying, hey, things aren't good anywhere. Matter of fact, I saw some comments on some posts that, some dealers were saying they were having or some vendors were saying, hey, some of our dealers are having good months. And then it just opened up a floodgate of comments where, nah, that's not the case. Nobody anywhere is doing good. And I understand why that's being said, but I don't buy into it. And I think it always comes down in the car business to, who's running the show and the team that you have. And so I want to ask you guys, you're seeing success and, within your markets. And so, do you guys buy in? Cliff, are you buying into, hey, it's not good anywhere? Or is that just kind of stinking thinking? And won't you touch on that? Then Phillip?
Yeah, absolutely. David, that's 100%. That's just a negative mindset as far as I'm concerned. We do, obviously the market has changed and how you sell cars has changed. We do a much better job. We do a lot of training. David, we use Auto Dealer University. And we again, you have to adapt. You can't, say, yeah, poor pitiful me, the market stinks. We can't sell cars right now, because at the end of the day, we all answer to somebody, and obviously that's not going to fly. So we're still progressively getting better. I'm expecting this month to be bigger than last month. From a new car perspective, there's still a lot of work in our used cars here locally, or at this store per se. But there's always room for improvement. Parts, service, everything across the board. We try to get better every single day, and we have, I preach mindset every day to everyone. The person who says they can, the person who says they can't, are both right every single time. So.
It's good.
What's interesting too is I think part of this is going back to what you were saying. I don't buy into the negativity either, but I think an important thing is maybe for some people to shift their perspective too, because I know part of what both Phillip and Cliff are doing is they're moving their cars and they're turning them over very rapidly. I mean, they're not doing the typical 50 plus day turnover of their inventory. From what I understand, you guys are turning them over a little bit more quickly on the new and used, really on both sides, right? And I think that can maybe be a part of it is, defining your success a little bit differently, changing your perspective. Maybe you look at things a little bit differently. You focus on that. Grosses are going to go up and down. Things change based on the market. Your inventory is going to go up and down. But you can always focus on the thing you can control. And that's one of the things that you can focus on controlling is moving the inventory quickly, which both of these guys are doing, which I think is a cool way to maybe just shift the perspective. And I think both of you guys have a positive mindset on that. So anyway, just wanted to interject that there.
Phillip, let me ask you. Yeah. So, and Phillip, I know that you're big in the community. So you've implemented things that you probably have done your entire career. And I think the car business, and I want you to touch on this a little bit, when it comes to the community, I mean, we're in a people business. And I think a lot of times we've gotten away from that. What are some of the things you're doing? I know you're big on that. Like, let me get out in the community and let's talk to the people who are buying cars and let's let them know we're here and that we care. Touch on that a little bit, and maybe going back to the basics and some of the things the car business has forgot maybe that they were good at.
Well, to start, he's exactly right when he said that, it's a mindset on everything. All of us can walk in every day and find something that's wrong. You got to find the things that are right and concentrate on those. That's first and foremost with your sales team. Secondly, is the salesperson 4 years ago is not the salesperson today.
Mm.
Salesperson for the last 3 years is used to, I mean, basically being an order taker. I mean, let's be real honest about it. When you got one Suburban or Tahoe and you got 10 customers that want it, it's a feeding frenzy. And it was, just watching the whole market as it evolved. And now it's going back. It'll never be the same what it was, but it's going back to the way it used to be, where you actually really got to be a salesperson to sell a vehicle, because it's not that, hey, I got the only Suburban anymore. They're all over the place, and I'm surrounded by Chevrolet dealers.
Right.
So if it's not a Chevrolet dealer, it's a GMC dealer. So, but touching on the community, one of the biggest things we found that when we go into a rural area like we're in is, there's nothing better than having the support of the city around you. So we've gotten involved in the football teams because that's huge here. And Refugio, they go to state every year. So we're big on making sure we sponsor them. We get involved in pretty much every event that's going on around here. And an advantage there, where it's not like Knoxville, a bigger market, is it doesn't cost us a ton to do that. These folks here, they're very simple. They really just want to see the fact that you're being involved and going out and showing that you care about the people around you. And even in a town of 5,000, well, we're less than 5,000, you see so many customers starting to come back to the store. Whereas before, the store was kind of like, I think I described it to Mike. I said, man, this store is like a little classic car, a barn find. I can't jump in and hit the gas and blaze down the road. I got to check everything out, make sure everything works, get involved in it. And that's been a big key to our success there. And, I don't know how anybody can say the market is really bad right now. It's a good market if you're being smart with every opportunity that you have. And it starts with your employees first, making sure they're trained up, making sure they feel good about what they're doing and they believe in what you're saying. Because
that's a cool perspective.
Then you don't have anything.
That's good. That's good. So I know that we talked to you guys too. There's some unique things you're doing, when it comes to pricing strategies, free deliveries, price points, things that, and this is what I love about this industry. And when you get real car people, like the two of you are on here, you're looking at the scenario, and we all understand why someone would say, there's a very well-known dealer in a big city, typical top guy. I won't mention names, but somebody would say, hey, because this guy's not doing good, it means the market's not doing good. And I 100% agree with you. It's a mindset, because where there's a will, there's a way, and and it comes down to it. Cliff, I want you to touch on that as well. What Phillip said about order takers and salespeople, and just really the mindset. I mean, we've had to do it with our industry and every industry. You kind of forget how to sell. You forget the fact you forget that you're in the business of selling cars, not just car sales. And so we've done this for years, but I'm sure you have some buddies in the industry or people in 20 groups and things like that where you've heard this, but they're having a hard time maybe wrapping their head around the fact that they've got to do things differently now than they did last year. So I want to open it up, Cliff, and let you touch on that a little bit as well. And then maybe you can give, some best practices, a couple of things that you're doing there, even if it's something that you went back to and just that you might feel is important for someone listening, that they can actually, maybe it might open up their mind to what they might need to do to move the needle.
Yeah, so I agree. Everything Phillip said. It's funny, two completely different markets, but again, the same mindset, the same focus leads to the same results. So our biggest, thing kind of that we go back to the basics on is just simple customer service. And I know that sounds cliche and stuff like that, but it really is. If you take care of the customer, if you're transparent, if you explain what you're doing, it becomes a very easy transaction. We're lucky. Kia is still a very, very hot brand. It's still winning numerous awards. So in that aspect, it does make things easier, I guess. We have gone back to the basics, and we have a very simple process. It's 1-2 stop, needs analysis, our meet and greet, needs analysis, and then stop at the desk. now over the past 3-4 months, I've added a step to that where it's manager intro. And it's just because there was so many people that were used to just taking orders, or, hey, they're not buying today because. So we introduced the manager right away. He works the deal from beginning to end. Customers like that because they feel like there's, it's very much a hands-on approach. It's not, we're not some big store. I've got, 12 salespeople here, 3 internet people, 2 finance managers, a sales manager, but we're all hands on deck. So there's nothing, I sit on the desk 90% of the time. I'll get out, meet the customer, talk to the customer, find out what their needs and wants are, and then, figure out a way to put a car deal together. And that's one of those things where it's not, a race to the top anymore, but it's also not a race to the bottom anymore. And I really think that's one thing that dealers across the board have to do. For so long, it was just, how low can we go? And we refuse to go down that path. We are going to do all the little things right, and the big things will take care of themselves. And little things right by, and we do a lot of online business. We do a lot of out of state business. We do offer free delivery up to 250, 300 miles, depending upon where they're at.
Wow.
And then from a price point perspective, it really depends. And you have to examine every car, things that are not hot, things that are not moving, you're gonna have to price them aggressively, or you're gonna have to come up with things that entice customers to buy. We're a big credit union town here, but we've gone back to we do a lot with Kia Finance right now, just because of the rates. We've got a credit union is 7-8% now for their top tier, and Kia maybe 3 or 4%. So I don't expect huge rebates to come back and things like that, but I do expect there to be incentives and as far as rates or whatnot, and you have to take advantage of those. But it requires every deal to be worked a whole lot smarter, and you got to look at it from a lot of different angles.
What's cool about that too is I was just thinking, I know David, you just got a new vehicle recently. I've been in the same boat. I think everybody can admit that at some point the relationship has been such a huge part of the reason behind the decision. You were considering a car that was further away out of state, and not having a relationship with that person. Somebody here you knew had a relationship with, that was part of the decision making process. I've done the same thing before, and that is so huge. And like you said, you're getting back to the customer service, making the connections, and you can absolutely sway people, just like you're talking about the importance of actually selling again, not just order taker. I mean, you can absolutely sway people to choose you because of your brand, your dealership, your particular value adds, rather than making it all about just the inventory, what you have, which I think has been the focus for a while. And there's a huge power in that because it works. I mean, it works on us, works on everybody. So, yeah.
So as we wrap up here, I want to give you guys a chance. Phillip, I want to give you a chance. I want to just, we have this would be like our final comment here, but just touch on, because used cars, there's something I hear on the ground all the time, right? With the used car values when they were high and now they dropped, and then some dealers, their wash sheets, reflected it a few months back. They were underwater in some vehicles. The used cars is a challenge right now for some dealers. Phillip, what are you doing? What do you think are some used car strategies? How to move additional used cars in this season? I'll let you kind of close with that maybe some insight on that, and then we'll give you final words after that, Cliff.
So, used cars, it's a fluctuating market. Right now, this past year has been the most I've seen it going up, and then taking a drop. So, the strategy that we implemented here at the store was we're going to run a 30-day supply of cars. We're not running the traditional 60, 90 that the bigger dealers run. And the reason is because when the market does fluctuate, I'm not underwater as much as some of our other dealers are. And because of that, we price our cars out the gate upfront to the market. And it helps because, you know, I've been doing this 33 years.
Mm-hmm.
The old days, you just priced a used car based on your gut, which you thought you could sell it. Now there's so much data. You can look and see, you know, this car is going to turn, this car is not going to turn. So you can't get emotionally attached to anything, you know, as I was guilty of it when I bought used cars. I would be like, oh, I like that car, so I'm going to buy it, you know, and now it's all about data, analytics, make sure you price to market. And if you do it the way you're supposed to and you train your salespeople the way you're supposed to, then you know you're going to make your money when you on the transaction based on a trade, the finance part, which we don't mark up rate on any of our cars at all. We sell product rather than rate, unless it's like a line 5 call. And that's really caused me to have less chargebacks and refinances with my customers as well. But you know, sticking with used cars, it's, you know, you just price it right up front and you're going to move it. And then you don't have to worry about a turn. You don't have to worry about paying interest on your floor plan, anything like that if you floor your cars. So I've just kept it a real simple philosophy. Make sure you got a car that fits your market, your core market, and then price it right. And you're going to get the people to come in.
That's good. Cliff, we'll give you final words on that. Used cars, where do you see it? How do you move more? What's your strategy?
Yeah, so same thing. You know, I keep a 30-day supply. I've definitely taken a much more conservative route just because, you know, it is fluctuating so much. Just like Phillip said, I don't want to get in a position where there's you know, you're in a ton of water situation. But you know, 30-day turn, our 30-day supply, 60-day very, very hard turn, no exceptions. If a car gets 60 days old, you got to find a home for it, whether it be auction, whether it be you know, discounting it to the point where you move it, whatever it is, it's got to go. But I agree with Phillip. You gotta price cars out the gate right now to sell. And you really, the same thing with new cars. You've got to look at it and you kind of got to go on a, you know, car by car basis to on your pricing strategy. I actually take care of the used car pricing here at this store. First thing I do every morning when I get here is get into Auto and price used cars. And it's funny. It's you know, sometimes you'll price it at, you know, 6:30 in the morning, and by 5 o'clock it needs to be repriced. So it's constantly changing, and you have to be aware of that. And you know, you've got to look at market day supply more than ever before, because you don't want to be one of, you know, 200 cars. You hold on to that car that's a little bit unique. And the other thing is, I don't skimp on reconditioning whatsoever. If the shop finds something, we do it, and we make sure the cars, that no salesman has to make an excuse for it, that it stands tall, and it's because, you know, there's nothing harder right now than having to overcome something that you could have prevented. So that's just my thoughts on it. But again, the two biggest things are, you know, a 30-day supply and a very hard 60-day turn, just not to get caught in case the market does drop. But who knows? I mean, the market could, you know, shoot up again. Just we don't know what tomorrow holds. We don't know what next month holds. We certainly don't know what next year holds. So it's a moving target, and you know, you better be paying attention to everything.
Phillip, Clifton, man, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today. I'm confident our listeners are going to get some great feedback. I'll give some great feedback on this, and really appreciate your time, both you guys. Thank you so much. All right, Mikey. So, you know, what I'm hearing is, you know, this is what I love about this business, but the operators and GMs and dealers that are listening right now, management that are listening right now, what I'm getting out of this is you got to pay attention. You got to be on point. This is something that you have to get into the business and you have to run it. And it's a day-to-day deal, because it could, you know, you heard Cliff there, hey, price it at 6:30, by 5, it might need to shift. And, you know, they're both of these gentlemen are on top of it and know what's going on, because every sale depends on it. And the market's fluctuating at such a fast pace. And, I think that's a recipe, though, for success. That's what I'm hearing.
I do. And the other thing, I hear that, and I hear as well, both gentlemen were talking about focusing on things that they can control. They're not worried about, they're aware of it, of course, like you said, but they're not worried about the economy. They're not worried about savings rates and interest rates and, a negative equity. They know it's there, but they're focused on what can I do to make my business successful? What can I control, and what can I make work? And I can focus on my people. I can focus on moving cars rapidly. And I think that's a great perspective.
Yeah, you got to inspect. If you expect it, you got to inspect it. So, hey, great show. Listen, we appreciate you guys for hanging out with us, and hopefully you enjoyed this episode of Auto Dealer Live. Mikey and I will see you guys in 2 weeks for the next episode of Auto Dealer Live. What do we got to do, Mikey, to make sure they're notified?
We got to like, subscribe, hit the bell, and make sure you tune in for the next episode.
See you then.